What happened to the smartest kid in your class? Smartest guy from my high school became an actual rocket scientist. How hard can it be? It's not like it's brain surgery. Rocket surgery. I'm a rocket scientist. One of the dark secrets is, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to be a rocket scientist. We had a few folks that skated by with gentlemen C's. My ex-husband was military and became a rocket scientist. He is an idiot and a drunk. I wouldn't trust a rocket. He went to MIT, works for Apple, and has a very expensive home in California. He also has a wife and 4 kids and seems to be very happy. I remember he was programming games in high school and was valedictorian. A big nerd who became a wealthy big nerd. Smart kid, the happy ending. You mean to say, he started slow. This person that you used to know, this person that you used to see, he isn't dead? He asked of me. He didn't die just after school? He didn't drown in someone's pool? He wasn't murdered by a friend? Or met some other tragic end? You mean to say he didn't die? He didn't drop. He doesn't lie inside a tomb. Or locked below? A moment passed. I told him. No. Oh my God, it's Sprague. There were 2. They were twins. They're both geneticists now with PhDs, and they work at the same university. That's honestly so cool how they got to stick together all throughout grad school and secure a position at the same institution. Not that surprising. They're conjoined twins. Ha 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 ha, thank you for that. The smartest in my class were twins too. Would get perfect or almost perfect grades in every subject, like 100% in almost every test or assignment, whether it's a math test or history paper. Did a ton of volunteer hours too. They both got accepted into Cambridge University's med program. I think only 5 or 10 applicants got accepted from all of Canada. One's a neurosurgeon and the other a cardiologist now. Do they finish each other's sentences? Died from a brain tumor right after he graduated high school. He was dang smart. Could play the piano upside down too. Was he upside down or the piano? Yes. Well, that's a little less impressive. He moved to Poland and became a molecular biologist. Not sure why, but I read this as muscular biologist, which made me cackle. He gave up brains for gains. Why not have both? Superstar pediatric neurosurgeon. Most confident person I've ever met. Guess you'd have to be, to cut open a little kid's skull and operate on their brain. I saw some interview during a documentary when a surgeon said something to the effect of, yeah, I come off arrogant at times, but do you want a surgeon who's not extremely confident in their abilities? The gift is self-awareness here. I'd trust him with my life. Yep, infinite difference between narcissism and actual confidence. She worked at Johns Hopkins doing research with psilocybin. I too know a few people who got really into studying psilocybin after high school. I majored in applied recreational neuropharmacology myself. I sold DS, but I like this phrase better. Guy had 3 scholarship offers. Lasted 1 year in uni before jumping off a building. Feel sorry for him and his family. I was in a really dark place at the start of this year. During my first week in uni, I was the stereotypical gifted kid during secondary school and 6th form, 1,218 education total in the UK, especially during secondary. The teachers would have me check their answers, and if I got a different result to the textbook, they'd have to come in as a mediator to see who's right. I wanted to K myself during my first university year. I still struggle with the thoughts. This was made worse by my depression affecting my results, making my grades and performance drop, and because I for so long had valued myself according to academic achievement. It really burned. I felt especially worthless. There's a bridge on the way to the train station in university. It's not a big drop, but it's right above a motorway. I thought about jumping off a lot. I resonate with this story. I can only hope that I don't head back into that dark place when my second year starts. Edit. Wow. This is really heartwarming. I'm so happy so many of you replied. I really didn't expect you to. I was replying to every comment individually, but I just did a scroll through and realized that there are so many more than I thought. You're all so very kind. And you're all strangers to me. It means even more. People who don't know me at all have such a capacity to be kind to me and love me and share their own stories. It's so human. It means a lot for someone who hasn't had many friendships that are genuine. Thank you all so much. You're all amazing. It means so much to me that you all replied, and I'm sorry I myself can't reply to all of you I started, but it's just a lot. Ha. Thank you all. Also, rest assured, I am getting therapy. I am on medication. It's a journey, but I'm doing my best. I can say I'm at a position where I don't want to K myself anymore. That's not saying that I won't want to in the future, or that I don't still have thoughts from time to time. Or even that I'm ready to live. But I at least go through my day generally not wanting to die. It's a start, right? Just worth mentioning. Life is not a race or a competition. You have all of your remaining years to get a degree, and you can only stay alive in the present. I'd try to ensure your survival first and foremost. Don't be afraid to make the changes necessary for your survival. Taking time away from education to seek necessary treatment is a much smaller bump in the road than your body. Take care and stay aware. Oh God, so much this. I also was the stereotypical gifted kid throughout school and even at university. I studied law because it came to me easily and was fun. And back then I still believed that economic success and prestige were the most important things in life and that I had to live up the possibilities given to me by luck of the draw with regard to smartness, ease of learning. Developed an eating disorder from the pressure to succeed and because I was not at all adjusted to all the responsibilities of adult life. Started intensive therapy to overcome the and deal with life better. But still went through the practical education in law, here in Germany. After uni and the first set of exams which exclusively deal with the theoretical side of the law, you have to do 2 years of a more practical education in working in the different fields of law and take another set of exams. During that time, I had 2 minor breakdowns which I didn't recognize as burnout back then, but which in hindsight were clear signs of me being overwhelmed. Took the exams, got the first job I applied to and started working as a lawyer in a big law firm. I liked the field I worked in, renewable energies, but disliked every single day of work because I constantly felt overwhelmed, inadequate and terribly scared of failing. Social contacts and things to do for fun fell by the wayside because I simply didn't have any energy left for them after putting everything into trying to cope with work. Managed to do 5 years of that until my body said, nope, not doing this anymore, and gave me a really bad burnout. Took 5 whole years of doing nothing and 2 inpatient treatments, which were thankfully possible due to the German social and healthcare systems, to recover enough to think about working again, though never in my original field of law. Now I work a part-time job in a super small publishing house, way beyond my facilities and making way less money, and I've never been happier in all my life. I no longer feel constantly overwhelmed or scared to fail because I've set my bars a lot lower. What I learned from all of this is that education, money, prestige, all that is not worth anything if you're not happy doing what you do, except for the odd bad day or annoying task which are inevitable and normal. I don't regret my way to where I am, despite all the pits I fell into along the way, because I wouldn't know to appreciate where I am now without it. But the thing is, if you learn to listen to yourself, and with the right medical care, because antidepressants also helped a lot in my recovery and my current everyday life, you can find what makes you happy, and it may not think what you thought it would be. Edit. Oh wow, thank you kind strangers for the awards, I honestly appreciate them. Edit 2. Hey guys, I just wanted to come on here one more time and express my sincere thanks to all of you who interacted with my comment and had kind conversations with me. I've had 2 very stressful weeks at work, thankfully not a regular thing, but sometimes SH just happens, and felt a bit exhausted and overwhelmed from that, and I didn't think this weekend would be enough to recover fully. But just now I realized that I do feel a lot better than I did this morning, and I think it might have to do with the heartfelt and kind interactions I've had with you guys on this thread. So thank you for helping me feel better. The smartest one I knew ended up drowning, tragically, right after we graduated. I wish I could have seen him make an impact on the world. I knew a guy like that too. His twin brother has been devastated since. So sad. That's weird. Some years ago we had 2 twin teens get in a terrible car accident speeding and the one died. The other was a mess and then faced charges. It was just awful and I wonder how he's doing now. It's strange that you say this because a similar thing happened right after my high school graduation. 2 twins brothers were speeding and got into a terrible accident and the one twin died. Sadly it was the one not driving who passed, so the other twin was even more tore up. Only reason he survived is because the steering wheel prevented him from being ejected through the front windshield. My best friend, at the time, we drifted apart and speak only rarely now. He got a PhD at Harvard, studied science in Antarctica, and now teaches at an Ivy League university. University of Antarctica. Said Ivy League, not Icy League. Their hockey team insane. The smartest kid in my school was really popular, and was one of my closest friends, but when he graduated he left everyone and everything behind, including his family. He even changed his name. I found out this little bit of information because a friend went to an academic conference and showed me a group photo and he was in it. I exclaimed, "That's my friend Pascal." He kept his first name but his last name was an anagram of his original name. I knew a guy who did this, one of my best friend's older brother. He got a degree in German and moved to South Korea for a little while. Next thing we know he had moved back to his native state but to a small town and had taken on a whole new persona. Different name and all. Apparently he spoke with a German accent in his new life. We met a guy who only knew him as the new version. That conversation was wild. I had an anatomy professor who went to med school in the UK in his 20s. Came back 5 years later and changed his name, and used a super thick British accent. I hope the accent was Brummie or something equally mental. I'd accept Geordie, or Scouse. NSFW, people who knew someone who died at work. What happened? Dude was hanging out in the break room cracking jokes, laughed, fell over and was dead. Brain aneurysm. It's terrifying how fragile our lives are and how quickly it can end without warning. Might be a blessing as well though. My first wife died of a ruptured brain aneurysm while teaching at an elementary school. She was in perfect health otherwise and it was the last day of school. I was literally at home lighting tiki torches for a party she was throwing at our house for her fellow teachers when I got the call she was dizzy. I got to the school in time to hold her and, as I spoke to her, her pupils popped all the way open when they dilated. She clenched her teeth together and took 3 breaths, and was gone. The school library is now named in her honor. I'm so sorry for your loss and your experience. That sounds devastating. Thank you. That was a while ago now and it was rough for several years. This exact thing happened to my brother back in April. Said his head hurt and stood up and had a seizure and died. I'm sorry for your loss. A worker at one of my construction sites got flattened by a precast concrete wall. After it fell from the 3rd floor, everyone who saw it just froze in place, except one elderly worker who ran around screaming, "Don't call anybody." Did he have a helmet on? Nobody answered him, so he got the crane worker to lift the concrete wall slightly and threw a helmet under the wall before ordering the wall to be lowered again. He did it to make sure that the insurance would pay out the full amount to the poor guy's family. Edit to respond to some questions. The older guy took a look when the wall was lifted to check for a helmet and tossed a helmet in when he couldn't see any. I live in Denmark, and I'm not sure how the insurance worked completely in these situations, but the dead guy's own life insurance would probably cover this accident. The company has an extra insurance to help their workers out, such as if you break your leg, the company insurance can help you to a private hospital and some rehabilitation. That extra insurance can be quite strict. That's why they made sure it looked like he had his helmet on. And yes, the guy definitely died instantly. No helmet can save your life from an 89 metric ton concrete wall falling from 12 meters height. And that, as unfortunate as this is, represents the wisdom of the elder knowing how fucked up this world is. The young man knows the rules, but the old man knows the exceptions. Near where I live, a construction worker died after falling from the 2nd floor. Insurance wouldn't pay because he wasn't wearing a reflective vest. They ended up paying like 70% after the news caused public outrage. Why would a reflective vest even make a difference? Make sure the floor saw him more? He came into work, sat down at a table in the cafeteria, said he was tired, put his head down on his arms, and died. It was completely unexpected and it shocked everyone. This pretty much happened in the library in my hometown. Some guy passed out at one of the tables, and when one of the librarians tried to wake him up, he wasn't responding. Paramedics were called, and then suddenly there's a gas leak, and everyone had to evacuate. Honestly, gas leak was a good idea, considering there was a dead body a couple rows away from a kid's event. Negative. We have a reactor leak here. Now, give us a few minutes to lock it down. Large leak, very dangerous. We're fine here, we're all fine. How are you? If I go out, I'd like to go out this way. 0 pain, 0 suffering, just 1 minute you're there, and then you have a forever dream. Edit. When? I don't want to die at work though. I worked at a supermarket in the mid-2000s. We were doing inventory prep one night and the store manager said he was feeling kind of weird. He went to sit down in the office and suffered a fatal heart attack. He was fairly young, late 30s, and in relatively good shape and was a really nice guy. So it hit a lot of us hard. The guy selected to be our new manager was very popular in the company and came in the next day to introduce himself. Seemed like a really cool guy. On the morning with what would have been his first shift at our store, he was killed in a motorcycle accident on his way in. Definitely the craziest work week of my life. How's the third guy doing? Everything seemed to happen just perfect. Hey. Op is the manager now. Best not ask too many questions. Darn, that management position at that supermarket is like a defense against the dark arts position at Hogwarts. Definitely not a safe way. He was an older guy and wasn't feeling well and went to use the porta potty. Ended up having a heart attack and passing while on the can. He was treasured in the workplace, and it was a big loss. Apparently, it's super common for people having heart attacks to go sit on the toilet and die there. Yes, lots of people die in the bathroom or on their way to the bathroom. If you start feeling ill, most people head to the bathroom. Makes sense. My father passed on his way from his bed to the bathroom. R.I.P. Dad. Holy, this explains it. I found my dad on the floor on his way to the bathroom. I just assumed he was just going to the bathroom like normal. I never knew this before. What a effing way to go. At least for me. I would die doing what I love. But not where I love doing it. R.I.P. to that man. Not sure if he counts as a coworker. But I worked at the Cincinnati Zoo when Harambe got shot. Totally the zoo's fault, by the way. There is no reason even an adult should be able to get in there. Much less a child. A EMT or paramedic could tell you that a ton of heart attacks happen on the toilet. Pooping increases pressure in your body cavity that can put an Atrist ticker over the limit. I was locking up at the end of the day and saw brake lights flashing on the car of our welder while I was pulling out. I pulled back in to see if everything was okay. He was in the midst of heart attack. Ambulance was there in 3 minutes. But I watched him fade away in my arms before they arrived. He was a good man and is sorely missed. That's brutal, man. I'm sorry. Dying alone sounds terrifying. I'm sure he appreciated you being there with him at the end. Son, everyone dies alone. That's what it is. It's a door. It's one person wide. When you go through it, you do it alone. But it doesn't mean you've got to be alone before you go through the door. And believe me, you aren't alone on the other side. Jim Butcher, deadbeat. Unexpected Dresden. Had to look to see what sub I was on. I'm sure to him having you there was so comforting. I'm sorry you had to go through that, but you're such a good human for being there. Guy had the crown of his head sliced clean off when a hydraulic press suddenly decided to drop because they forgot to bleed the pressure before starting to do maintenance on the machine. My job puts me around 1000 T 4500 T presses. I absolutely refuse to go under in them unless there's physical blocks in place to prevent it from accidentally falling. If there's a mishap with one of those presses, you don't go to urgent care, you go to the morgue. ETA, there's blocks, wood or aluminum. Typically, the customer can put in place between the platens when it's open. This is solely to prevent workers from being crushed if the safety locks were to fail and the upper platen falls under its own weight, a few thousand pounds, at least. The above tonnage refers to the hydraulic force the press is capable of when it's running, not the weight of the platen. A2, I see a lot of people aren't understanding this. The blocks put in place are not to stop the press from running. Wooden blocks would not stop the press if it was running. These presses could pancake a car engine and not even break a sweat. The blocks are to prevent the upper press platen from falling if the safety locks fail while the press is idle, not under power. Similar to when you put a car up on jack stands. On the plus side, they could probably fax you to the morgue at that point. Not related at all, but I got into a screaming match with a foreman once. We had to use railcars keys to empty railcars over a pit. Some of the old as F cars you have to stick your hand and lift up a latch. But you can't do it from the outside or your fingers will get crushed. So you reach inside. Make eye contact with the man on the other side and yell open slowly. You have your plugs in. It's loud as F. It's stressful. Finally I got mad and asked why the F am I doing this when I can't ethically train people to do this. He told me life isn't perfect all the time. I called the safety man. We didn't do that anymore. F everything about that. That's not an if but a when scenario. My employee, they were my go-to person, a friend. And we chatted constantly even after we transitioned to work from home. Working late one night we were chatting on Slack while working and he disappeared. 2 hours later his phone texted me and stated this is 4X's fiancé. I found him on the keyboard and he's dead. He won't be into work tomorrow. Please call me at XXXXXXXXX. I'm privileged not to deal with people in shock in my profession. That was heartbreaking and sobering. I'll miss him. He's dead. He won't be into work tomorrow. That's F-ed up. It was worse calling her. She added when I went to view the body. It was on the same room where they told me my dad died a month ago. Surreal. And I was just so sad. I'd stay away from that room if I were her. A student, he was chewing on a cap to swimming while walking in the hallway, ended up choking and died. When I was 2, I was chewing on a Bic pen and the little end cap popped out and I aspirated it. It went into one of my bronchial tubes and started acting as a one-way valve that allowed me to inhale but not exhale from that lung. It wasn't immediately clear to my parents what was wrong. And the doctors at the little country hospital couldn't figure it out either. I would act fine, and then suddenly start to turn blue and look panicked. By the time they got me to the larger city hospital and figured out what was going on, my lung was so hyperinflated that I could have died. I didn't though. Are you sure you're not posting this from beyond the grave? You joke, but this is exactly how I died. There's a memorial for a kid at the school I work at who died in the 90s. He put one of the sticky, stretchy rubber hand toys in his mouth and accidentally swallowed it. It got stuck in his throat and he died because they couldn't get it out in time. God, having a child is terrifying. You manage to get through the minefield of pregnancy. You don't eat sushi or soft cheese for 9 months. You go through the agony of childbirth, then mastitis and blocked ducts breastfeeding. You chop their grapes in half. You don't feed them honey. You make sure they wear a helmet and click in their seatbelt every time. Then that little F-wit chews on a 50c carnival toy and dies. What is your go-to joke when somebody asks you to tell one? Did you hear about the guy that dipped his balls in a jar of glitter? Pretty nuts, right? I thought this joke was absolutely hilarious. I told it to my client once. I asked if heard about the guy dipping his nuts in glitter? He said no. Where was that? I completely blanked and forgot the punchline and said, Hobby Lobby I think. Very long awkward silence after that. Anyway, pretty nuts, right? After the long pause, that's how you stick the landing. Now, several years later, he calls his client to tell him these 3 precious words. Pretty nuts, right? I'm stealing this now, my man. A guy sitting in a bar just getting absolutely hammered drunk. He gets so wasted that he throws up all over himself. He says to himself, "Aw man, my wife is gonna K me. She just got me this shirt and here I am getting drunk in a bar and throwing up all over it." The guy sitting next to him says, "Buddy, relax, take $10, put it in your shirt pocket, and when you get home, tell her that some other guy got drunk and threw up on you and gave you the $10 to get your shirt cleaned." The man says, "Oh my god, that's effing brilliant. I'll do that," and he leaves the bar to go home. When he opens the door, his wife immediately starts laying into him. "Oh my effing god, you goddamn drunk. I just bought you that effing shirt and you already ruined it. Look at you, getting sick all over yourself. You're a effing embarrassment." The man says, baby, please, it's not like that. Some other guy at the bar got drunk and he's the one who threw up all over me. He even gave me $10 to get the shirt cleaned." And he gestures towards the bill sticking out of his shirt pocket. His wife grabs the bill and says, "But this is $20. And the man says, "Oh yeah, he also sh my pants." My dad told me this joke shortly before he passed away from cancer. He laughed harder than I think I've ever seen him laugh, which put us both in hysterics. Thank you for the reminder. He also told me the pirate one. Long ago, when sailing ships ruled the sea, this captain and his crew were always in danger of being boarded by pirates from a pirate ship. One day while they were sailing, they saw that a pirate ship had sent a boarding party to try and board their ship. The crew became worried, but the captain was calm. He bellowed to his first mate, "Bring me my red shirt." The first mate quickly got the captain's red shirt, which the captain put on. Then he led his crew into battle against the mean pirates. Although there were some casualties among the crew, the pirates were defeated. Later that day, the lookout screamed that there were 2 pirate vessels sending 2 boarding parties towards their ship. The crew was nervous, but the captain, calm as ever, bellowed, "Bring me my red shirt," and once again the battle was on. The captain and his crew fought off the boarding parties, though this time more casualties occurred. Weary from the battles, the men sat around on deck that night recounting the day's events when an ensign looked at the captain and asked, "Sir, why did you call for your red shirt before the battle?" The captain, giving the ensign a look that only a captain can give, explained, "If I am wounded in battle, the red shirt does not show the blood, so you men will continue to fight unafraid." The men sat in silence. They were amazed at the courage of such a man. As dawn came the next morning, the lookout screamed that there were pirate ships, 10 of them, all with boarding parties on their way. The men became silent and looked to the captain, their leader, for his usual command. The captain, calm as ever, bellowed, "Bring me my brown pants." They tell this joke in Game of Thrones and it's great. Deadpool 2. Did you know that before the invention of the crowbar, crows just drank at home? There's 2 types of people, those that can extrapolate from an incomplete data set. There are 10 kinds of people in the world, those who understand binary and those who don't. This might be my new favorite. I told my doctor, I broke my arm in 3 places. He told me that I should stop going to those places. Guy goes to the doctor, says, "Doctor, everything hurts, I don't know what to do." Doctor says, "Go ahead and touch your knee for me." Patient does it. "Ow, that hurts." Doctor, "Okay, now touch your wrist." Patient, "Ow, that hurts." Doctor, "Now touch your cheek." Patient, "Ow, that hurts." Doctor, "You have a broken finger." There's an episode of House M.D., or a couple, when he is in the clinic and his people with the symptoms of these jokes. It's brilliant. That's also the one he was in a surprising good mood, isn't it? To the point that Cuddy and Wilson think he is taking DS or something. A cop came knocking at my door and said he was looking for a criminal with one eye. I told him if he used both he might have better luck. A cop came knocking at my door and informed me it looked like my wife had been run over. I said yes, but she's got a great personality. An Irishman walks into a bar and orders 3 pints of Guinness. He takes them to a table and takes a drink from each one, alternating cups until all of them are empty. He comes back the next week and does the same. 3 pints and takes a drink from each until they are all gone. The third time he comes and the barman, curious, asks why he drinks like that. Oh, it's for my brothers. We live all over the world and don't get to see each other very often. Doing this feels like we are all together once a week. That's lovely, says the barman and wishes him well. This continues for several years and the Irishman becomes something of a celebrity as the story circulates among the other regulars. Until one night, the man comes in and orders 2 pints. A hush falls over the bar as they watch him take his drinks and continue alternating like always but with a pint missing. The barman, who first asked him about the tradition, feels compelled to go over. I'm so sorry for your loss, he says, pointing at the pints. Confused, the Irishman looks at him before laughing and saying, No, we're all fine. I just gave up drinking. This is understated. Smart. Brilliant. Good joke. I love this one. I end it with I gave up beer for Lent but the other 2 didn't. My grandfather, born in Ireland, gave up beer for Lent, drank ale for 40 days. A sheep farmer has a talking dog. One day he asks it to get all his sheep into the pen. A little while later the dog says job's done. All 40 sheep accounted for. 40. I have 36 sheep, not 40 inches, the farmer says. The dog replied, I know. I rounded them up. I tell a similar one as the cowboy asked me if I could help him round up 18 cows. I said that's easy, it's 20 cows. Aw, that's good too, but then there's no talking doggy. I tell a similar one as the cowboy asked me if I could help him round up 18 cows. I said that's easy, it's 20 cows. The talking doggy stood up and clapped. Now this is a fantastic one to have on hand. Thank you. One day, a man is waxing the car with his son. His son looks up and says, You know you can use a rag for this, right? This one had me laughing for way too long. It's the visualization of it. I don't get it. Please dumb it down. As one would normally use a rag or sponge to wax their car, the man was using his son as the tool to wax his car. I bought my friend an elephant for his room. He said, Thank you. I said, Don't mention it. Why don't you find elephants hiding in trees? Because they're good at it. Q. Why do elephants paint their toenails red? A. So they can hide in cherry trees. Oh, rubbish. I've never seen an elephant hiding in a cherry tree. R. I know. Shows how good they are at hiding. A squirrel is sitting in a tree and feels it starting to shake. He looks down and sees an elephant climbing the tree. He yells down, Hey elephant, why are you climbing my tree? Elephant says, I'm going to climb up there and eat some pears. Squirrel says, This is a pine tree. There's no pears up here. Elephant says, It's okay. I brought my own pears. I took my daughter to the zoo, and they only had one animal, a dog. It was a Shih Tzu. A man is walking through the woods when he finds a suitcase. Curled up under the suitcase are a fox and 4 cubs. He immediately calls animal control to report what he found. Oh no, that's terrible, says the animal control worker. Are they moving? I dunno, says the man, but I guess that would explain the suitcase. This took me embarrassingly long to get. Read that as in a suitcase and the joke sounded really morbid. Yeah, I thought of something related to poachers leaving the suitcase and the person acknowledging the fact in the last. That's like the 911 call joke. 911, 911. What the emergency? Caller, help, I've been shot. 911. Okay, remain calm. Tell me, how many times have you been shot? Caller, this is my first time. I didn't get the first joke until I read this one. So now in order for me to tell this joke I must tell both. Thank you for your contribution to my joke bank. What's the difference between a rectal thermometer and an oral thermometer? The taste. Doctor goes to write a note, and pulls a thermometer from his pocket. He says, Great, some asshole has my pen. What's the difference between a bartender and a proctologist? A proctologist only has to look at one at a time. What's the difference between a genealogist and a gynecologist? One looks up the family tree, the other looks up the family bush. What's the difference between gender and S? I didn't have gender with your mom last night. Took my kids to the zoo and all they had was this little dog. It was a Shih Tzu. I'm not even sure you can call that a zoo. To qualify as a zoo you need at least 2 pandas and a grizzly. That's the bare minimum. I met my wife while standing in line at the zoo and she said that exact joke. We had a good laugh. Then she grabbed a broom and walked into the monkey cage. That's when I said, "Yep, she's a keeper." So, you're married to the monkey now? This one really helps being read aloud lol. What's the difference between a hippo and a zippo? One's really heavy and one's a little lighter. Also, I've never been thrown out of a zoo for trying to F a zippo. Then there's my idiot cousin's version. What's the difference between a bic and my dick? One's really huge and heavy. The other is a little lighter. 2 guesses which is which. Which profession has the most F-ket up people in it? People I have met who are life coaches seem to be the most wackadoodle people ever. I've had 2 close friends in my life become life coaches. Calling them wackadoodle is close to the truth. They are, but emo there is more to it. They want to help people, but have no discerning SKS outside of reading too much fad fitness self-help literature, and being charismatic. Also, are both fairly wealthy but didn't make the money themselves. I think their heart is in the right place but the wealth, crunchy granola bars, and pseudo-intellectualism many from self-help books melted their brains. As an old professor of mine once said, life coaches are people who want to be psychologists without going through the work of actually becoming a psychologist. Me being a psychologist student feel that so much. My ex once confronted me about the difference of a coach and a psychologist and I felt really offended. Is not about feeling superior, nothing like that, but putting yourself through the path to really learn how things work in an organized way, not just what matters to you, not only giving advice. Ethics exist. There's regulations. Also, psychology is not only about helping people out in their decisions and being healthy. There's research, teaching, social work, education, etc. Psychotherapy is a tiny category. Also the science behind it. It's always good to know what you're talking about and who came up with that theory based on what. That's pretty much by design. Since their job is based on manipulating vulnerable people en masse, you don't need to actually help them with good advice. Just give them bullshit that sounds plausible enough so they would come for more while still being F-ed. A chiropractor with fewer steps. Politicians. Definitely, they've probably got the most screwed up things going on behind the scenes. He's a liar on a mission. A pernicious little sh, but we call him politician. Cause the name's a better fit. Fresh sprog in the wild. Beauty. Considering that elected office was never intended to be a profession. You're exactly right. The car business is full of degenerates. I was in college and interviewed to sell cars. The interviewer said, "You might feel bad the first time you get some old people on a fixed income and sell them a car you know they can't afford. But once you get that commission check you'll forget all about it." I got up and walked out. This is exactly how I felt during my time working for AT&T in sales. I maintained my principles while there, but I took constant flack from management for not upselling enough. Listen, someone comes in for a phone. I'll sell them that phone. Maybe a case and earbuds to accessorize. Past that, unless they actually seem to need something. I'm not slinging random bullshit to pad your store's sales metrics. I left after a year or so. The slimy nature of those places disgusts me now. Edit, did not expect that much of a reaction. I'm pretty sure this is my first Reddit award. I walked out of a Verizon store because of someone trying to upsell me like that. I'd already done a lot of research and knew which one I wanted. When I told the salesperson, he immediately said, "Oh, forget model. There's this awesome new one that blah blah etc." When I balked, he changed the subject and started trying to upgrade my data plan. I swear, he was trying to make me confused so I'd do what he wanted. I darn near said I'm not Clark Griswold, but thought he might not get the reference and I'd look insane. Instead, I just left. Finally someone said this. Dealership life. Coked up salespeople. Techs with inflated egos. Sism. Inept fixed operations employees. More DS. Emphasis on dealership life. My husband used to be a tech at a dealership and that was the most toxic part of his life. Literally everything you described is accurate. Prison guards. Used to play video games with a guy from Texas that was a guard at some prison. He divorced his wife, who I had also become friends with, so that he could profess his love for me. I turned him down and he told me if I ever went to Texas and he found out he'd make sure I wouldn't leave the state. Wow. Couldn't handle the rejection so he resorted to a death threat. What a real piece of work. Don't be so quick to judge. It could have also been a kidnapping slave threat. My ex was a CO at one point, and he quit because he couldn't stand how horrid the others were to the prisoners. He made the point that if you treat them all like animals, how do you expect to rehabilitate prisoners? He wouldn't tell me a lot, because he said some of the things he witnessed were vile. He tried to be kind to the prisoners, not to the point of allowing them to run over him but to show that he saw them as human beings. My ex isn't even that great of a person lol. but I'll give him this one. My aunt has been in and out of the prison system the last few years. It's a long story, and while she did deserve to serve time, she is not a bad person. She's a broken woman, who lost her child, fell into DS to control her grief, and made some really bad choices. The COs she's told us about are horrid. They look down on all of them, and treat the women even lesser than the men. They would treat her like she was a murderer or something, steal their mail, and wouldn't allow them to seek medical attention when they needed it. I'd why, in America of all places, we have allowed our prison systems to become so deplorable. I get they are there to be punished, but they are also there to be rehabilitated and returned to society as a more capable person. But they don't, because the prisons are just making them feel like they are nothing but trash. There's a reason that there is such a high rate of offenders returning to prison. Because they are short of being tortured and are never given the resources or tools to get their life together. Not all prisoners are murderers, rapists, etc. Many are good people, who made a bad decision and probably when they were in a bad position in their life. Edit. I'm getting a lot of responses about my part saying in America of all places, and yes, I realize our history is not good. Trust me, I'm one of the people constantly screaming about the lies we were raised on, etc. I'm not trying to pretend that we didn't have slaves, that we still aren't fighting against prejudice, classism, bias and more. It's very harmful to ignore the atrocities that your country has committed. We should acknowledge and try to be better. I just want to add, almost every single country in the world has some type of history they aren't proud of. It's not just America. The problem with many Americans is they want to ignore our history and pretend we are perfect in every way. And that's simply not true. It was more of a point that not being a third world country, we have almost comparable prisons. To be fair, I don't know a ton about prisons in other countries and need to educate myself more. But I know some other countries have much better prison systems and such, where rehabilitation is the focus. Please don't break down an entire 3-paragraph comment discussing the conditions of our prisons into 5 words that can be taken out of context. I know America has issues. Most of us do know. We aren't the worst country in the world. But we are far from the best too. Our history is covered in death and blood, as is most of world history. It's just sad that humans, for all of our achievements, still don't know how to be decent to each other. I can agree with all of this. You can treat a person with respect and dignity, but still enforce the rules. I've had inmates protect me from other inmates, especially when I was pregnant. It's disgusting having to watch and protect over a child harasser. But you should still be able to do your job without being on their level. People in the restaurant industry seem to develop substances very frequently. I don't think the industry attracts those people, but rather the stress of the job combined with the availability of alcohol and other DS create the perfect storm. To a degree, the industry does attract those types of people. In my experience, restaurants are meritocracies, more than most other workplaces. And if someone can get the plates out on time, they'll be hired, whether or not they went to chef school. The good side of that is that people who don't have the privilege of money or connections can work their way up, in that classic American dream kind of way. The bad side is that it attracts a lot of drunks and wild people. If you enjoy a whole day shift, if you can get your plates out swift, if you attempt to cope with stress with drink and DS and nothing less, if you can gladly ply your craft while underpaid and understaffed, if you can man a kitchen twice as hot as heck and half as nice, if you can do the work of 4 from dawn till dusk or maybe more, while sacrificing all for speed, then baby, you're the one we need. Whoa, 2 fresh sprogs on one topic. What's sad to me is that working in the restaurant industry is usually one of the first jobs kids often have. I just remember in the 90s being made of at 16 by my coworkers that I didn't want to smoke pot, or that I told them I had no interest in other DS. My first was dishwashing at 13 for under minimum wage. It was a semi-legal training wage for 3 months, and suddenly you didn't get scheduled for shifts after that. Wild and bizarre experience. All the cooks were wired on swimming, except for Sal, who was on oxygen from emphysema. Though it occurs to me now that maybe cooking next to an open flame with an oxygen tank could have kept a bunch of us. Love that everyone is just naming every job ever. Yeah, in this thread, people. The best thing about humans is that they're natural narcissists. Everybody's F'd up but me. Sure. Lol. Right. Now I'm wondering, which occupation do most people agree has the least F'd up people in it? I think there is enough F'ery to go around for all chosen professions. People are just people no matter what. People that work in car dealerships. 45 years ago, my wife and I drove 2 hours to a dealership because she finally found the exact car she had been looking for online. And it was at this dealership. We called right before we left the house to make sure the car was still at the dealership. Since we had to drive 2 hours to go look at it, we obviously wanted to make sure it was there before we made the trip. You already know what comes next. When we got there, the first guy we spoke to told us that the car had just now been sold. but he had some brand new models he'd love to show us. I basically went off on him and told him I'd never do business with them after that. It was a slimy way to get us in the door. It's hard telling how long that car had been sold. They just assumed we would buy something since we made the trip. Quite the opposite actually. Car dealership receptionist here. This happens a lot. People call beforehand asking for a specific car they saw online and the salesman will say yes, but in reality they don't actually know because they're too lazy to check while they're on the phone with you. I've seen a few times where a salesman comes up to me and says I'm waiting on some customers to show up. They were looking for 4X type car, and I'll ask if we have it, just to conversate, and he'll say heck no. We sold that weeks ago, but I can get them a brand new 2023 4X. And then customer shows up, no car. Cusses out salesman. Salesman comes back in talking sh about the customer, oftentimes calling them a $1 idiot, or PS why for not buying a random vehicle they didn't ask for. This is why I only lasted for a week in car sales. It's a slimeball business controlled by pea-stains that have no business selling anything. If you have to lie to earn someone's business, you're doing it wrong. My dad loathes dealerships. He does what dislike for he can to make their lives miserable. They've wronged him many times in the past and he's a petty MF, so he'll go well out of his way to spite them. Hess been driving the same 2015 Hyundai Sonata he bought back in 2014. He was originally going to buy an Accord, but the dealership kept trying to bend him over every which way for more money. He said they were very pompous and talked to him like he was stupid, trying to get him to sign documents really fast and force him into warranties and unnecessary services and whatnot. Hess a career prosecutor, so he knows better than this. Arguing is his entire job. He basically walked out of the dealership in the middle of the salesman's bullsh and ignored his calls for him to come back as he walked out. Just pretended the guy wasn't there. The dealership had his phone number, so the salesman kept texting him over the course of a few days to come and give the Accord another look and they could work something out. My dad ended up buying the Sonata a few days later and texted a picture of it to the Honda sales guy and said, "You convinced me to buy this instead." The salesman never replied. Lamau. Edit. 2 clarifying points. People seem to be getting prosecutor and defense attorney mixed up. My dad works for the state, not a firm. He prosecutes, tries to send to prison, people being charged by the state at the time. He no longer does courtroom work and just approves search warrants and gives talks now. Cars come out 1 year in advance. A 2024 car can be bought in 2023, 2018 and 2017, etc. Alas, there is no time traveling happening. My dad is the same way and he went car shopping with me once. Brought along a newspaper. He said when I put the paper on the desk, "We're done and the guy's not going to be worth our time." We walked in, sat down and started talking. Of course the guy immediately launches into this is the cash price, financed value, monthly payment, etc. Drew a line with an X near it and said, "If you sign here my boss will know you're serious." My dad flopped the newspaper on the desk and stood up. I wanted the car, but he was up, picked up the paper, and we walked out. The salesman followed us desperately blathering about talking more. But we were done, got in our car and drove away. My dad's best advice to me ever: it's your money. You are buying the car and have all the power. They will do what is like for they want to take that power away and have you sign a contract. Pay what you want, buy what you want. They're the ones who should feel scared and nervous, not you. Your signature and your money are worthy of walking away with if they try to play you for a sucker. Set a price, buy the car. If it's not right, walk away. Easy. What is denied by many people, but it is actually 100% real. That our memory is very fallible, and does not work like a video camera. Witness testimony is notoriously unreliable. You'll get 20 people who all saw the same thing saying 20 different things. Yep, I studied criminology and my professors made sure we truly understood that we can never trust witnesses. There's a Brain Games episode on this exact scenario. Pretty wild. Witnesses weren't even close to identifying the right perp. Eyewitness testimony is the leading cause of innocent people being convicted of crimes. The idea that you can identify someone you may have never met before based on having seen them for 10 seconds, often under poor lighting, is very flawed. I'd be notoriously terrible at this. I can't tell people apart. The first time I watched The Departed it was so confusing because I couldn't tell the two main guys apart. After I've seen someone enough times, I'm way better at it. A lie detector isn't reliable. I'm stunned by the number of people who think it is. I see it so often in news stories about crimes. People in the comments section say just make him take a polygraph. Then we'll know for sure. If anyone's reading this, don't ever agree to take a polygraph examination if you're suspected of involvement in a crime. There's a good chance it will produce a false negative, a positive. And even though the results are not admissible in court in many places, it may bias the police, the press and your friends and family against you. If police push you to submit to a polygraph examination, it's because they use it as an interrogation tool. You'd think polygraph results not being admissible in court would be a hint that they don't work. But no, I've met people who know and accept that they're not admissible, but are also convinced they're 100% accurate. So far none of these people can explain why we bother with trials and evidence and burden of proof and reasonable doubt etc. instead of just using lie detectors. If they worked, the justice system would be a heck of a lot faster. Eyewitness testimony is also extremely unreliable. It makes sense why DNA has exonerated so many people when the old tools used to investigate were all so terrible. The lie detector test and examiner rely on the belief that it detects lies. The testimony that comes after the results are told to them can be impactful. Even still, I am concerned there are innocent people with an easily guilted conscience who get put through the ringer with these tests. Who would have thought 30 years of Maury and 15 different flavors of Law and Order all portraying lie detectors as infallible to the general public would have had detrimental effects. When I went to sea, I would see the occasional flying fish. It was surprising how many people thought I was pulling their leg when I told them about it. Flying fish don't have legs. Got M. But not by the leg. Wait, do people not think flying fish exist? I think it's something you might read about in a kid's education book but not ever come across until later in life, and not really sure if when you first learned about it it was fiction or real, or if the flying is greatly exaggerated. When I first saw them, I've got to be honest, I went, if they really fly, thinking they could just jump and glide a meter or two. You really aren't prepared to see them flying into the distance. Confirmation bias. Reading into a situation what you want to see. I knew someone would post this. But did you know it would be someone with poop in their name? Any biases? Even as someone who is a student of our behavioral economics, it creeps in everywhere. We are a society where our every rational weakness is exploited for profit. Not to mention with algorithms on places like YouTube, Reddit, etc., whose jobs it is to recommend to you videos that tie in with or are on the same subject as things you've already watched or looked up. It's not rocket science that confirmation biases can happen 100-fold on internet media platforms. Viewer, I just watched this video on black, gay, etc., people being painted in a negative light. Algorithms. This person watched that video and maybe even gave it a like. Let's show this person more videos that demographics like them like, or that have similar titles, keywords of the other video they liked, so they can watch more ads and we can get more money. Viewer, darn. Mainstream media is so tie for never showing what's really happening. I'm seeing videos on this or that type of person doing this bad thing or this or that type of issue happening all the time. But viewers subconscious. This thing I've been seeing a whole lot lately must be a real problem that I should be really afraid of. Don't want my meat sack to be in danger. Let's put the fear level regarding that demographic or that issue up a few. That ought to help. Viewer, holy sh. I think I need to buy a bulletproof backpack for my kid. Also, gotta make sure I stay far away from those people. Majority of folks aren't playing the official Uno rules. Monopoly also. Monopoly is actually a better and faster game if played by the official rules too. Yeah lol, it's almost like the point is to snowball and if people lose instead of let them hang on to a 0% chance of victory for 4 hours. Yeah, F their rules. People largely deny responsibility for anything they contribute to. No raindrop feels responsible for the flood. In the same vein, no snowflake is responsible for the avalanche. Edit. Effing autocorrupt. Sand corrected to same. My god, there's autocorrupt now? What have we done? I'm stuck in traffic. But I'm not traffic. When visiting a place I'm not from, I like to say I dislike tourists. Shaving doesn't make the hair grow back thicker. Doesn't it feel thicker because of the ends of the hair being flat instead of pointed? Yes, it also looks thicker because the flat end is so blunt instead of tapering off to look and feel thinner. So it feels and looks thicker? I can see why this fact gained traction. You don't know how to fight unless you've been trained or have experience in fighting. Most people imagine themselves beating only to have reality smash them in the nose. A lot of people even injure themselves just trying to throw punches. My kid swore they could fight off a knife attack. My husband got a marker and had our kid try to separately fight each of us off them. They failed horribly. But they now know it'd be near impossible to defend themselves in a knife fight. Knife fights are scary. When you enter a fight with a knife, you need to know that you are going to get cut. Not, may get cut, going to get cut. A lot. The best fighters, knife or not, know they are going to feel pain. They accept that as a part of what they are doing. MMA, military, police, security, all know that they are going to get hurt badly when entering a fight. Some rando off the street thinks they can get away without a scratch. But a real fighter knows they are going to the hospital after it's all said and done. That's what makes those people dangerous. Agree. I also think people might have an inherent bias that they would be coming out on top in a knife fight, when it could just as likely be the bad guy. It reminds me of that knife fight near the end of Saving Private Ryan. Brutal, ugly, and a terrible way to die. I would add that many people who practice certain martial arts also overestimate their abilities. If you don't actually fight in competition or at least serious sparring, then your training probably won't help as much as you think it will. Same thing is true for firearms training, and even more difficult to account for. Another thing is some martial artists not being cognizant of the fact that real fights aren't fair. Your assailant might be armed or there might be multiple people. Jiu-jitsu is great against one unarmed guy, but your ground game will fail hard when the other guy's friend is standing and kicking you in the head while you execute a textbook triangle choke. Or worse, even the best fighters are wise to avoid a street fight whenever possible. Took karate and arnis for 4 years. Included a lot of serious sparring. Even in sparring, you never really use fancy moves. Lots of jabs and reverse punches, and a few low kicks, are what mostly get used. Sure, I did learn some moves, like spinning back fists, elbows, and a few holdslocks that I can still do. But my sensei straight up told us to run from fights, and never, ever fight fair. It's okay to eat MSG. People eat piles of it without even realizing it. But as soon as they enter a Chinese restaurant, it's no message for me, thanks. Exactly, and then the next day they're gobbling down ranch dressing, aka liquid message. Shark attacks are extremely rare. Can we get a shout out for cougars too? They've killed 27 people since 1868. You could almost call them harmless with those numbers. I have a favorite quote from a park ranger: "You may never see a mountain lion in the wild, but if you spend any significant time in the wild, they've seen you." Yup, I grew up in the mountains going on long hikes with my dogs. We often saw cougar tracks as well as deer and other wildlife. But despite our next door neighbors regularly coming home to a cougar on their roof, we didn't see any. We would hear them at night. A while ago I found out they chirp like crickets and my blood ran cold for a second. I used to hear chirps all the time on my walks. But yeah, even when I'd go on walks at midnight in the hot summer, I was never as nervous as I am about walking in the city alone now. I used to walk heavily to warn the rattlers and never had an incident with a single aggressive animal at all. The Monty Hall problem. Every time it is described in a post, such as a till, or on a Facebook post, a large number of people vehemently insist that switching doors couldn't possibly result in an increased chance of winning, even after showing the results of simulations, providing mathematical proofs, or giving examples using more doors. The cognitive dissonance prevails. Best way to wrap your head around the MHP is to imagine 1,000 doors. You pick one. Host opens 998 empty doors. Should you switch or stay with your pick? It's the first time I've heard of this. But is my logic correct after reading your explanation? You have a random door at the start. The correct door is more likely to be in the group of 999 than it is to be your one chosen door. So by eliminating the other 998 doors in the 999 group, you won't be picking another random door. If the correct door was in the 999 group in the first place, which, remember, was more likely, then it will be the remaining unchosen door, so you should choose the other door. This is correct. It's much less noticeable when dealing with just 3 doors, though, since it becomes a case of I picked a 13. You removed a 13, and the remainder is the other 13. Mathematically, the remaining door represents a 23 chance of being correct, but your original choice was still a solid 13 and could very easily be the correct choice. When we expand the problem to 1,000 doors, it's a little different, because your odds of selecting correctly at the start were 0.1%, and now you're left with a 5,050 choice, but the previous door now holds a 99.9% chance of being correct, so it's much more obviously the correct choice. Sure, your original pick may have been correct, but it's not a 13 and 23 split like the original problem. In your opinion, what is the dumbest way to spend time? Spending time worrying about what other people think of you. I do that too much. Definitely need to figure out how to quit that SH. It gets easier as you get older. Seriously lol. Getting off all this crazy social media is the biggest key tbh. We weren't meant to be connected to every single person or know every second of people's lives. Nope. To add, wasting time worrying about things that are out of your control. I dislike when I'm at work, and I've finished all my tasks for the day, or hit the quota, and my supervisor tells me to look busy. My boss literally told me the complete opposite. Make sure you have your phone charger or a book or something, otherwise the boredom will kill you. And he was right. What do? Healthcare, screening specifically. If my patients don't show up, not a lot else I can do, and a surprising amount don't show up. They don't want you to do more work. They just want you to literally look busy. It looks bad for them if upper management comes by and they're letting someone sit doing literally nothing. Just open some spreadsheets or what dislike for it is that you do. One thing I liked to do when working in office was take a trip. Maybe to the printer. Maybe to a different floor I need to speak to June in accounting. Stock room is a good one because they never have cameras and nobody knows what you've gone in there for. A manager walks in and you go, oh, there they are. I've been looking for ages. Grab a new pack of highlighters and scooch back to your desk. If you have any minor things wrong with your PC, don't get them fixed straight away. Wait until you've nothing else to do. Then call IT. I can't work. I'm waiting for IT to bring me a new mouse. Never fix anything yourself even if you know how. Get someone from another department or from maintenance to do it. Or a work buddy. Hey Daz, you've finished your work too. Can you come look at this problem I've been having? Daz, I can fix that for you, but it'll take until exactly on the dot of 5 p.m. Pro tip. If your IT is 24 hours, always schedule your PC repairs for after you leave. Oh, I'm sorry boss. I can't use my PC and IT said they can't come by till after 5. Follow-up tip. This does not work if you work in the IT department. Sitting in traffic. That's why I stand during traffic. Amateur. I squat during traffic. Darn, you must have some nice buns by now. Get into audiobooks. I'm powering through series after series these days. It's great and makes my drives a lot more enjoyable. Can't stress this enough. 90 minutes one way even on NYC public transportation can test you. Thank you Libby, Free Local, Library app, and Audible. Getting so drunk that you don't even remember the night before and feeling sick the whole next day. When I was 25, I worked for a company that had a culture of going out after work on Friday nights. The company would come around with a drinks trolley at 4 p.m. on Fridays. It was effing terrible. We'd all end up maggoted by 9 p.m. on Friday night and then the entire weekend would be written off in recovery. Ruined my health and sanity. I stopped partaking of the free drinks. Hey, just so I know what companies I should not work at and avoid for further interviews. What's the name of the company? Denmark. Doing simming you don't like in your leisure time. F all the other answers. Let's be real. People enjoy browsing Reddit or they wouldn't be here. If you enjoy your time, it's not a waste. People are so melodramatic on this site and self-loathing. If it's really leisure time, I enjoy using Reddit. But I think for a lot of us Reddit represents what Tim Urban coined as the dark playground. We end up with a love-dislike relationship with many activities we do while we procrastinate. It's often something we end up doing when we should be doing something else. I miss the wait, but why? Era of the internet. It seemed like Reddit was more pro-science, pro-self-help, and just more interesting. I'd often see work from Tim Urban and such. And it was so valuable and frankly life-changing as a young college kid. Now it's all public freakout, facepalm, murder-ed bywords, rage bait type of stuff. It's what the algorithm deems valuable because I guess rage and anger is addictive and gets Reddit more clicks. This is a solid point. I remember when the internet was almost too many TEDx videos. At first I loved it. Then I rolled my eyes at the I am very smart culture it produced. But now? Yeah, I kind of miss the blind optimism. Not to get too political, but the hope that Obama's campaign encapsulated was really the dose of optimism this world really could use. Then we dumped it down the drain. Doom scrolling. Upvotes. Continues doom scrolling. Upvotes. Continues doom scrolling. Upvotes. Awards meaningless internet points. Continues doom scrolling. Mindless scrolling where you don't even pay attention is definitely a time waste. How many of us even remember what we saw yesterday on Reddit? F man. Why you gotta do me like this? With a partner that doesn't care about you, and that starts a conversation with you and forgets that you are there. Edit. OMG. Thank you to those that gave me the awards. I sincerely appreciate you. And I cannot tell you all enough how much I love seeing so much support for each other. And the advice and different perspectives you've all given me. I hope to see this continue so everyone's voices, needs, and ideas can be heard. Sorry, as much as it sucks to leave it behind and move on. It's for the better. Aside from little bumps here and there, it's only up from here. It really hits hard because I'm thinking about leaving my fiancée. We're supposed to marry in 1.5 months, but I don't know anymore. She's only picking on me and complaining about me and everything I do. Leaving her wouldn't be too hard honestly. But everything that goes with it. Moving. The pets. But I'm also pretty close with her parents. And she still has quite a debt that I'm not gonna get probably. Edit. I don't know if anyone will read the edit. But anyway. I'm leaving her today. Why? I was helping working at a party and twisted my foot. She was there with colleagues. I called her to say first aid wanted me to go to the hospital to take x-ray pictures. She had some drinks so I had my mother come pick me up to drive me there. 1 a.m. My fiancé came to me and told me not to be a little bee, somewhat like that. I couldn't stand on my foot. First aid man helped me on the way to the car. Halfway she decided she would help me, support me. Suddenly we get to the exit and she literally pushed me. I managed to stay upright. She even picked a verbal fight with me where my brother had to calm us down. Once I was at the hospital she kept texting me and calling me but I didn't pick up obviously. She kept saying if I didn't pick up she'd end it. Which, obviously, is fine by me. Because I'm going to end it anyway. BTW. I broke my foot. Yay. Sorry if there's bad English. It's not my native language and I didn't sleep since 6:30 yesterday morning. It's 6:20 in the morning now. Don't make a hard choice now that becomes 100 torturous choices in the future. If you think her attitude is genuine and permanent and not just wedding-related stress, do not rush into this. Also go talk to her and tell her how you feel. My GF likes to talk over me. I will start talking. Then she's talking about what dislike she wants. Just cuts me off every single time. Lately, I've been just stopping what I'm saying to see if she will ask me to continue. She never does. Just my thoughts or conversation lost. So now I just stop talking. When she does that I slowly walk away from her into another room. I think it's time for you to reevaluate the importance of your relationship with her and the importance of your own well-being. You deserve to be heard. And if she can't hear you in a casual conversation, she won't hear you during a serious conversation. It sounds like she is trying to take over, and you don't matter to her. Yesterday, I got sucked into watching casino streamers all evening. What's dumb is deciding that anything you, or anyone else does, is a waste of time. If you needed to relax but watching dumb SH for a few hours, then you do that. Yeah, there's always a lot of judgmental $1s in these threads. If you enjoy it and it doesn't hurt anybody, who the heck cares? But, that's not what's happening here. The guy you're responding to is literally saying he wasted his own time. You guys are acting like it's wrong to realize afterwards that you've been wasting your time doing something dumb. Mr. Handpay wins a $30. Oh jackpot. That's a little something. Working your life away so you can afford to stay alive to work more. But what if my goal in life is to survive long enough to die? Task failed successfully. Complaining about how boring your life is, and knowing that you need to get stuff done. But then you think that while also scrolling on your phone for hours. A loop that is pretty hard to get out of. Some days I have so much to do I don't know where to start and end up getting almost nothing done. Yup, and the guilt felt after a totally unproductive day is extremely punishing. Gee, I wish I was a man of action or something. Oh, I realize I have other stuff to do right now. So, pretty ironic. Working off the clock. Wait, y'all do that? I only do it if I just got up and they ask me to get something from the back or to put an order through, both of which take less than a minute. Reddit. More specifically, reading questions like these on AskReddit. More specifically, reading replies to these on AskReddit. More specifically, writing replies to these on AskReddit. Worrying. I wish it was easier to stop doing this. If you look further up this thread, getting blackout drunk has already been mentioned. Debating with others. Mostly people aren't willing to see another person's point of view. Debating someone is an opportunity to understand their views, if you are an open-minded and curious person. Whether or not that person benefits from debating with you is only a secondary benefit. I love to talk with people that have a religion. I personally don't believe, but hearing how others do and why is always to talk about. One of the coolest people I've ever met was a super Christian dude who loved researching other religions. His main one was Buddhism, and he talked a lot about how much commonality he saw between the different major religions and how he loved talking with people of different faiths. As a mildly edgy young atheist, I was blown away with the open-mindedness, and since then I've strived to emulate that energy. What tattoo made you walk away from a person? My buddy was into this goth girl who was super cute and covered in tats. We saw her one day with her arms uncovered, and her tats on each arm were showing for the first time. Charles Manson on one arm, Adolf Hitler on the other. WTFFFFFFFFF. It's like the opposite of goth culture. Too many fascists sneak into the industrial scene too. It's annoying. F in N bars. It's a problem with swing dancing too. I was talking with a medic at work once and she told me about wilder stories. She talked about a hex angel adjacent guy that came in for a motorcycle accident. Tattoo on his chest that said all women are WS, and a full back piece that was of a woman crying while being ripped against a tree by Jesus. He died in the ER from his injuries. I think we have a winner. This has to be the worst. I'd command the 13-year-old child with the N tattoos, plural, gotta be worse. N kid is motorcycle or piss ghost of Christmas past. I have an A tat of a Jack Daniel's whiskey bottle. I was young and dumb, and a guy left me immediately after seeing it. Edit, Jack Daniel's tat for all you curious folks. Yes, it is crooked. Yes, it is sh tie. The tattoo artist was also drunk. I got drunk and tattooed a coworker's boyfriend's name on my eye in agreement he paid my bar tab, which I racked up like for. I have gotten lots of questions about this from women over the years. Tattoo. Edit, I had a rough day today. Depression is a mother effer. I'm laughing and smiling now and my whole day turned around. Thanks everyone. Edit 2. I really didn't expect 50k view of my A tonight. I'm glad I took a decent photo as I just threw up the first take. Someone asked to see more of my tattoos, so here are a few favorites. I have too many to share them all. More tattoos faves. Nice cheeks brother. Gavin's a lucky man. Lamau. Prime real estate. I had a middle school student with a big fat swastika on his shoulder and white power tattooed on his other arm. Called DFCS, but they said that if his mom allowed him to get the tattoo, there wasn't much they could do. He was 13. That poor kid. That's probably the must F ed up one I've seen on this thread. My stepbrother is full on milady neckbeard incel. Or at least he was. Somehow he managed to get a girlfriend. 2 weeks later he has a tattoo on his wrist. It's a date. It's not the date they got together. So I asked what's the date for? He tells me it's the day I became a man. I called him a effing idiot. They broke up a week later and he's since had it covered up. Imagine you have S with somebody and they tattoo that date on their wrist. That's not a red flag. It's the system of gulags in the Soviet Union where the flags are produced and dyed with the blood of the prisoners. Anything poorly drawn. My ex was a hot guy. He got a wolf tattoo on his chest. It had crossed eyes and a fat weird face and for some reason pine trees embedded in the fur. Just. Why I? Moon. Who effing brought moon? God damn it. Moon. A coworker who went through a bad breakup then came back to work with a tattoo of a topless woman with a noose around her neck. He was ordered to keep it covered at work. It was that offensive. Can't believe his ex broke up with him. He sounds so emotionally stable. Right? If only she'd just hung in there. My current boss has a tattoo in Chinese that she got when she was 18. What's it say? Italian. This was amazing. Was it intentional or some tattoo artist having a laugh? I'm not 100% sure my tattoo means truth, but sometimes, when asked, I say it means stupid white boy. It is inside an unfinished outline of abstract tribal. I dislike it almost as much as my skull on fire on my other arm. Sigh. Please tell me the flaming skull tattoo is the Minecraft painting. I couldn't really walk away because I was at work, but a customer had a tattoo on his arm of Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. She was on her knees, sucking the Tin Man's cock. Should have been the Scarecrow. He's the one who wanted a brain. How else do you get the Tin Man's heart pumping? Does the Tin Man have a sheet metal cock? I knew I'd see this Bubbles quote the second I read Tin Man's cock. Older woman had a whole back tiger tattoo. I asked her about it and she told me her and her sister were both Leos. She had a full back tattoo of the wrong cat. Man, I hope that was a joke that didn't land. I love making up dumb meanings for my tattoos when people ask. It had Leos forever and their birth dates on the bottom. She was in her 70s and was a very soft and mildly confused rural lady. I didn't have the heart to tell her. Maybe it was a liger? A guy I worked with showed me his Monster Energy tattoo on his back and he was proud of it. Wait, he had a tattoo of a can of Monster Energy drink? Why? The logo. He just loved Monster drinks. Pretty dumb tattoo in my opinion. I knew a guy that got an Herbalife tattoo on his chest. He always was an idiot, so it kind of tracks. One of the guys at work asked me about my tattoo on my wrist and we had a whole conversation about that. I asked him if he's got any tattoos and he said yeah, but not for long. I'm getting it lasered off next weekend. Then he lifted his shirt up and showed me a full stomach piece of an eagle, swastika, and the words Mein Kampf. No idea if he was getting it removed because he's changed his ways or because he couldn't take his kids to the beach without wearing a shirt. Beach problem. Anyone who reformed would have just told you they had something offensive from when they were younger or something. Not shown it. He was looking for support and a fellow N. Right. This is the least covert version of the I like to party dog whistle to date. I'm not familiar with I like to party being a dog whistle. Just thought it was something stupid that 14-year-olds who threw up from one beer in a public park said. On vacation in Belize. Got friendly with a local guy who took me and my wife spearfishing. He took off his shirt at some point on the water and had a tattoo across his chest that had been inexpertly covered over with a big black bar. The tattoo just said, "Our Peasty think there was a date as well." Presumably he didn't get the ink done himself and it was done to him. Probably in prison. Awkward and long ride back to shore after that. Yikes. Being stuck on a boat in open water with someone like that. I've got heebie-jeebies just thinking about it. It's the implication. Are these tourists in trouble? You'd think he would have just added the to make therapist. SMH. The arpist? Now that's a bit of a claim. My husband and I took our toddler, mixed race, to a food hall. She started playing with a little girl. That was cool until we noticed her dad, who had a tattoo of a black baby and a noose. That was more than 20 years ago and I still shudder when I think of it. Holy SH. That is the worst one in this thread by far. Just reading that was a punch to the gut. I can't imagine how you felt seeing it. Yeah, my face definitely did something involuntarily when I read that one. This post was the motivation I needed to schedule my tattoo removal consultation. If it's a dislike symbol, check around. A lot of shops will remove those for free. No, it's just the initials of my boyfriend from when I was 18. I had a child with him and thought it would be fine since my son had the same initials. I got married, now divorced, and my now ex didn't seem to care. He ended up adopting my son as an adult and we changed his name. So the tattooed initials are now just random letters, and an awkward conversation starter for any future partners. Pro move, use a few small lines to turn it into a dislike symbol. Get it all removed for free. Extra pro move, listen to better advice than this. Too large swastika on the back of both shoulders from a guy with a large Bowie knife and a sleeveless t-shirt complaining that he can't find anywhere to live. BC. No one has places to rent around here. Because one clearly wasn't enough. It's going to be a maze. Oh my god, Joshua was a racist. That came out of nowhere. I was once dating this white boy with blue eyes and he had a whole Egyptian scene spanning across his chest and down to his arms. Out of curiosity one day, I asked if he really was into Egyptian culture. His response, "I took an Ancestry and Me test and it said I'm 1% black." Oh no. No. My deceased uncle's prison-looking tat of a nude woman with his nipple as one of her nipples. He was a classy guy like that. I saw a guy with a tattoo of a woman bending over in his belly button as her $1. I wonder if they're related? Grew up in rural Georgia. Our band played a gig for a friend's birthday in a trailer park where all our power for our whole system relied on no one turning off the bathroom light. There was also a drunk pregnant chick smoking while we were playing. Many red flags. As we were packing up, got a tap on the shoulder from a guy with swastika tattoos all over and plenty of additional SS tattoos saying "Hey, liked your playing." Couldn't get out of there fast enough. I just want to let everyone know, I deliver pizzas for a second job and trailer parks are like regular neighborhoods. There are good ones and bad ones, so try to not judge someone who's nice otherwise when you find out they live in one. There's a couple I know of that are bordering on a middle-class suburb level of trim and attention. I'm saying this because I too was guilty of assuming the worst. A transportation company I worked for a short time hired a new crew. We did military contracts. And this new crew was supposed to meet us to help us with a 3-day pack and load the customer wanted done in one day. Their crew pulled up outside the base security office. The 3 guys get out. I looked over, and the crew leader's brother had a swastika tattoo on his neck and a tattoo of an African American man having from a tree on his right calf. The entire crew were banned from the base, and our boss called corporate, and we refused to work with them. There was a lot of angry yelling between my boss and the warehouse owner when we got back to the yard. Adults of Reddit, what is something every teenager should know about the real world? Life never settles down. If something is important to you, then you should get to it ASAP. Yes, don't get complacent or pass up opportunities because you think more will come along. Before you know it, you've lost 10 years saying I'll do it next week. And then one day you'll find 10 years have got behind you. No one told you when to run. You missed the starting gun. Song hits so different when you are 40 than 20. I expect it to hit different again at 60. Yes, I'm only 20 and in recent years I've often had a lot of SH on my plate, at least more than I'd had to handle before, and I regularly caught myself looking forward to a time when I'm settled down, and I just live in peace with a nice constant rhythm to life. Since then, As time passes, I'm starting to realize that this never really happens. There will always be bills to pay, presents to worry about, conflicts to resolve, phone calls to make or wait for. You do eventually get into a rhythm, but it includes those things. You start to predict them, and if you make sure you're prepared, then you reach a point where you don't have to stop everything to handle them. That getting prepared bit is pretty tough, though. $1,000 is a lot to owe but not a lot to have. I like that, thanks. Another way to look at it, you need to make $5,000 to save $1,000. I calculated how much money I have after costs, like a business, and base my spending on that. Let's say, earn $5,000, that's 28, 4 hours, taxes and employer-employee retirement fund $1,000, rent $1,500, utilities and internet and phone $500, basic groceries and $1,000, 10% into savings investment, so I'm left with $500. I ask myself if that meal that costs $28 is worth working 10 hours for. It usually isn't. Edit, these are fake numbers for illustration purposes. That $220 student loan feels pretty hefty when you put it like that. And I thought my $60K student was a lot. How do people borrow so much loan? Everything is expensive when you move out. Yes, and nothing is free. You always pay in some way or another, both private and work life. Once I asked a consultant an easy yes or no question, since he was already on site and stood in front of me. He sent me an invoice for it. A coworker once came to my desk and asked me, how would you like a free lunch? As he had a voucher to be used by end of week for free meal at an upscale restaurant and wasn't able to use it. I jokingly said Friedman told me there is no such thing as a free lunch, but gladly accepted the voucher. The next day I went to lunch with partner to redeem our voucher and the restaurant was closed and lights off, apparently having gone out of business the week prior. When I returned from buying a Subway sandwich, I found the coworker and told him Friedman was still correct. And that's why you never buy a gift card to something that's not a chain. I've had $200 massage gift certificates given to me by close friends become worthless because of this exact thing. Use it in a month or it might be gone. It's this Western concept of moving out when you become an adult that often makes me glad to be Asian. Most, if not all, of Asian culture puts a lot of importance in family ties. We're a very collectivist society, contrasted by the individualism of the West. We're raised and conditioned with the notion that we have a duty to the family and to give back to our elders for raising us. It's totally not uncommon to get married, have your partner move in, and raise kids all in the same household you grew up in. Either that, or move into your partner's place and find a bunch of their family there as well. Don't get me wrong, I often wish I was raised in an individualistic culture just because I feel like independence fits my personality more. But at the same time, in this modern economy, I'd probably lose my SH if I wasn't living under my parents' roof. Fellow member of Asian family here, that entirely depends on the relationship you have with your family. For example, living with my family is not free. Sure, they'd never charge me rent, but they would slowly wear my sanity down to a nub with their incessant whining, and I'd also be the one target for their unprovoked and totally random mood swings, guilt trips, fits of rag-lecturing rants, to the point where I'd be so drained of energy, self-confidence and joie de vivre that I'd get absolutely nothing done. I'd turn into an emotionally repressed shadow of my former self and cower away in my room instead of being out there, having a social life, enjoying myself, learning things, growing as a person. So yeah, it costs me a lot to live with them. I'm eternally grateful that I was able to move out. For better or for worse, confidence opens as many doors as competence. Also, internships matter way more than grades. Much easier to get good internships with good grades and solid letters of recommendation though. I think the advice is for someone like me who went to a school without a ton of connections or an internship program. So you kinda had to do it yourself. But I was so focused on getting good grades and graduating on time that I didn't seek out internships on my own. So after I graduated, it took me almost a year to find a job that wasn't minimum wage nonsense. And even then it was mostly physical labor, which is what I was trying to avoid by getting an engineering degree in the first place. Now I'm in my 30s and feeling stuck in my industry, semiconductors, and I can trace it all back to not having an internship in college. Don't get me wrong, I'm stuck because of other decisions I've made since. But in college I didn't know internships were important and thought I could get a job based on my academic performance alone. As does family. If you are not born into a notable family, you'll have to work at making doors open. Make friends with rich kids and let them hold doors open for you. You are the main character in your story, but you are not even an afterthought to 7 billion people. Edit, 8 billion people. Darn. Me celebrating because 1 billion people are thinking about me. Oh hi Elon. I did not hit her. Not if I eat Mona Lisa. Not if I make Mona Lisa Moana Lisa. Don't worry about not having the respect of people you don't respect. This is a good one. I'd like to add, don't take criticism from people you wouldn't ask for advice. Also, people's bad attitudes, personalities have nothing to do with you. A lot of people had really tie upbringings and are stuck in a cycle of sh. It's so much easier mentally to forgive people for being a piece of sh than to let it f you up. Practical empathy. That's a great advice, especially for teenagers who are usually very anxious. It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That is not a weakness. That is life. Captain Jean-Luc Picard. You can be the most delicious peach on a tree, but not everybody likes peaches. What else is in the teaches of peaches? Peaches come from a can. Right now I can't enroll to university I'd like to apply due to a cargo delay of a document. Even though I literally made no mistakes, it's currently looking like I lost. I'm devastated, but this was beyond my control and unexpected. Thank you, dear stranger, I really needed this. Have you contacted the university's administration to explain the situation? Bonus points if you get on site for a face-to-face conversation. Your mileage may vary depending on the university and the program. But in my experience there can be a lot of leeway in the administrative processes, if you get to talk to the right person. You know how sometimes you think to yourself, when I'm an adult and have my own place I'll be able to do or dislike where I want? Make sure dislike where you want includes doing the dishes. The real tip here is make sure the place you rent has a dishwasher. The place I rented has a dishwasher. But when I moved in I discovered the dishwasher did not work. Now I know how to fix a dishwasher. Don't know why, but my first reaction was way to go, kid. Lol, you may be older now, but you know what? Proud of you, X. No matter what you eat there will always be cleanup. The cleanup never stops. Embrace it. Yep, I used to be a slob, but now I'm basically a cleanaholic. The trick is you have to keep doing it every day until you become emotionally numb to doing cleaning tasks. I'd much rather live in a clean one-bedroom apartment than a McMansion with filth everywhere. People lie. Just because they're an adult doesn't mean they always tell the truth. As the president of Burundi, I endorse this message. Thank you for the endorsement, Mr. President. But is the endorsement a lie? At my old job, a guy did everything to piss off the 25-year-old kid who is going back to school, slowly, at local community college. Why? BC, he wanted him to hit him so he could call the cops and ruin his life. He was just trying to make a better life. Some people are just nasty. Luckily, the college kid realized this and didn't fall for the trap. Take that story and simply apply it as how horrible and evil humans can be and probably multiply it by 100. I've seen girls go after married men just so they can see a family break apart. Yeah. And these were director-level management people at Big 5 banks. Bad people everywhere. It's crazy that both of these similar experiences happened to me recently. After a year of a co-worker antagonizing me, trying to get me to hit him on camera, he lost his SH and attacked me. I body slammed him. He was arrested, lost his job, also had a young woman get obsessed with me, while I was in a relationship, showed up at my house in the middle of the night. I told management. They ignored it. They treated me like SH after this. So I quit. I found out she wanted to sleep with me because she disliked our manager and the manager had a large crush on me. So it was all about trying to make the manager miserable. What a posh human. I've pretty much given up on getting to know people at work since then. If you don't plan your own B-day parties you won't have B-day parties. Friends planning swimming for you are super rare. It's not like on TV. You have to make an effort to have a social life. You'll have to work to have a good life and you'll be tired like you never have been before. It will make having fun and going out harder. Enjoy being a teenager as long as you can. But don't try to fight becoming an adult. Because it will just get harder and harder. It really sucks to read this, but I feel it. I'm in my mid-30s and if I don't initiate, nothing ever happens. It really does get tiring. And I gave TF up. They don't even get an ounce of my energy anymore. But I still have a good time without them. I'm in my early 30s and work as an farm at a hotel. Between dealing with all the guests and my team, and the rest of the hotel team too, all my social energy is spent. It makes it super hard to want to socialize with my friends in my spare time. Oh, I'm a chef at the tail end of healing from burnout. I super duper feel ya. There's simply no room for others outside your personal work sphere. I'm a teen here reading the advice and I've already put the dots on this together tbh. Like, I understand that my age means I don't have a lot of the experience to validate as much of my words, and I understand that I'm not paying my own bills yet. But even trying to be a mature school person in high school makes you realize things. The moment freshman year happened, I noticed changes. The amount of work for grades increased. I was constantly tired, partially my fault, but I digress. I had to choose between work and play every day. I want to succeed, so I rarely choose play. Life isn't as genuinely enjoyable as it used to be. I don't hang out unless I make an effort. My friends don't plan things for me as a surprise, and I don't plan things for them. We rarely are able to find the time to plan things as a group, and often it doesn't work out anyways. I guess at the end of the day, this hits me too, in some capacity. There's time to play in adult life. If you don't have kids, some adults have time and adult money for play too. The end part of schooling is so stressful and you're put under so much pressure, but it gets better. Lots of these replies are quite doom and gloom. There's some good advice, but don't forget the positives too. What turns you on that you are absolutely embarrassed about? Female mid-level managers at grocery stores, like the assistant manager or department head. I'm dead serious and I have no idea why. Edit. Oh wow. Wasn't expecting this to take off. FAQ. My mom did not work such a job while growing up and we have a great relationship. I'm married to a nurse. No, there's no role play. Not that she wouldn't be down. It's just my secret thing. Definitely not Malcolm in the Middle. Even though I love the show, I have no idea how it started. I just like the vibe they give off and the quasi-professional dress they affect from time to time with the tight business pants and rumpled buttoned-up blouse. I'm not a creeper. I don't lurk or force interactions. I feel like people, especially women, should be left the F alone at work. But, you know, I'll steal a glance or two here and there or get in their checkout line. It's all above board. It's not a P thing. Dina from Superstore is a great example. This is my favorite one because it's so random. Especially when they got their little name tag on. Ooh yeah, just like that. Yeah, you gonna let me use that expired coupon, huh? You minx. When someone gets really close and whispers, like PLS no I can't be horny RN. Same. Don't FING whisper in my ear unless you want me tingling. I literally have this thing that makes my lower spine actually tingle when whispered in one ear. Only one side though, right near the bottom of the earlobe. Weird feeling. Not always sual but can be intimate in the right moment. Also happens during haircuts when the trimmers get behind my ear. In this thread, a bunch of people are just today learning what ASMR is. Lamau. Neck kissing and dry humping can make me orgasm. This embarrasses me. That's great, makes for an easy quickie. Going through all these comments looking for someone with the same fetish as me. Yeah, not one of you perverts wants to be force feminized, locked in chastity, dressed in lingerie and a skimpy maid uniform then pegged by a strict and powerful woman. Nor me. But. No, the prompt is only for things you're ashamed of. Oh, he's ashamed. In fact, he's been very bad. Wardrobe malfunctions, but they need to look accidental, not sigh. Well, I do other stuff, like I'm riding my bike in the park, and this policewoman says oi, you can't ride your bike on the grass, and I go oh no, and her uniform falls off, and she goes ah, and she's trying to cover up, but I've seen everything anyway, and I get on my bike and I ride off. On the grass. Clothes fall off? Instantly. Sure. I've always thought some women looked really good with vampire fangs, or even just longer canine teeth. No idea why, but I know it's weird. I also watched Underworld as a teenager. Kate Beckinsale in a latex suit defiantly had an impact on my life. Oh yeah, really pale skin and the dark hair always catches my eye. And Underworld did my favorite style of fangs because they have the long canines but also the incisors are sharp as well but have an angle to them. Yes please. Just look this up and now I dislike any vampire fangs that aren't this. I think the best way to view this thread is by controversial. Good tip, that's where I found all my likes. Just someone who hugs well. Like a big ol' hug that embraces the entire other person and presses them against you while you slightly lay your head on theirs and just cherish the moment for a few seconds. That kinda hug? Edit. Haha, it seems my hug game is on point. So, fun story, after the COVID vaccines finally became widely available, a friend hosted a big party for anyone who was the requisite time past their second shot. I saw many of my friends for the first time in over a year that day. It was a magical time. I'm a guy who's largely introverted, but big on hugs. One of my woman friends who has always been a fantastic hugger was the first to hug me that day. It was the first hug I'd received from anyone but my own mother since quarantine began. It was one of these full-body deep embraces, just as you described. My God, until that moment, I had no idea how badly I'd needed that. This woman has always been just a friend to me, and still is, nothing sual between us, and yet, in that heavy embrace, I was so turned on, because I had no idea how lonely I'd been without touch like that. I had a sudden lightbulb moment in that regard, and hopped on Tinder the very next day. Met my current girlfriend 6 months later. But yeah, I was one of those introverted folks who absolutely loved being home alone with no social obligations. I really think I could have weathered another 2 years of pandemic lockdown just fine. So I was completely surprised by just how badly I needed such human contact. I think we all do, even if we don't always realize we do. Chokers, scarves, or really anything wrapped around a woman's neck. Which isn't so embarrassing. But the reason is because the first fictional character I had a crush on was the girl with the ribbon around her neck that when she took it off her head fell off. Edit, because a lot of people have speculated. It's the girl with the green ribbon not from The Wolf Among Us. OMG, I literally just read this story to my daughter not 10 minutes ago. She found my very old scary story picture book and asked me to read it. Okay, I read the first line of the comment above. Got distracted. Came back and my brain skipped the rest of that comment. So what I read was chokers, scarves, or really anything wrapped around a woman's neck followed by, paraphrasing, I just read this to my daughter. She found my picture book about it. Why does this sound so familiar? Do you know what the character was? I'm trying so hard to remember. Jenny from the children's story Green Ribbon. My humiliation kink Lamal, but that's kind of the point. Pathetic. Smooth. Jesus, it reminds me of how I met my BF. It was almost identical to this conversation. I wrote something about my kink. He made a half-joke comment about it. I answered. We started talking and now we are together since 4 years. And it's so embarrassing I always lie to people about how we met. Olive green. Don't know why, but if a woman wears an olive green shirt, I find it strangely arousing. I read this as Olive Garden. Me too. When you're here, your family. What a re-eu-doing Saint EPG Ardennes. There is a spot on the dead center, back of my head. Even someone lightly touching it or pulling my hair sets me off. Doesn't matter who. Sounds like a cheat code. Nuclear launch button. I dated this woman that had that spot just behind and under her ears on both sides. I found this out when one time we were hanging out before we got together and she was leaning her chair back on the legs. Well, she started to tip over and with one hand I grabbed armrest and my other hand caught her at the base of her neck right before she fell. I don't think I have ever in my life ever turned a woman on that fast. We had a lot of fun together that year. Lol. FYI, behind just under the ears is a common erogenous zone. If you want to find out if it is for your partner, get them lying down and then cradle their head so it's fully supported with your thumbs on their scalp just behind their ears. Press firmly but gently with the pad of your thumbs for a few seconds while maintaining eyes contact. Then kiss them, and lift very slightly with your hands so you're pulling them into your face. Sounds weird, but it's very intimate. One of those things you gotta just try and laugh about if it doesn't work. I had a male friend that was very religious and did not touch women. We were close friends for years and never touched, hugged, shook hands, nothing. One day he passed me a pen and his finger grazed my finger ever so slightly. Holy moly, it was like one of the most intense sensual moments I've ever experienced. The sense of touch was magnified to a level I had never experienced. Years later he told me that this moment almost caused him to leave religion and just take me. So yes, that's my kink now. But anytime I asked a partner to just avoid touching for like a week, even a few days to build up the sual tension, they thought I was crazy. You need to watch Pride and Prejudice. Oh okay, will do. The closest I ever got to seeing something like this on the screen was the movie The Crime of Padre Amaro and it was crazy hot. Also Bridgerton Season 2 will floor you. I became a Christian when I was 16. My parents told me what living right was but often said do as I say not as I do. They also were abusive in multiple ways. I wasn't experiencing sual arousal until I went to college, around 20, and I would hug many people, like everyone, but 2 hugs stand out. One was from the super sweet guy who was a foot taller than me, so handsome, and way too kind. When I hugged him, my body buzzed. I had no idea what it was but I loved it and hugged him often. The other one was my college crush, who was also a foot taller than me, so handsome, and way too kind. Hugging him was magical. I tried getting closer to him but was way too shy. I remember watching a movie with him one summer and I sat kind of close to him but distant some because I was so shy. And another time, he played guitar for me and sang me a song that he was playing at church this coming weekend. And I got so wet and had no idea what to do. It was a very odd time for me but I loved learning about my body and after I got past my trauma and nerves. Had an ex who was 4 feet 11 inches stomp on the couch cushion next to me and put her hand on my throat because of some excessive teasing. She was angry and wanted me to get on with it already. My brain fried and I thought something broke in me for a second. Like a hot balloon of excitement bubbling up from your stomach. Or at least, That's the best way I can describe what happens just trying to imagine this scenario. It's hard for large guys to find a girl that wants to dominate them. It wasn't that she wanted to dominate me. She was far from capable of that. I just had been teasing her pretty much all day. I ramped it up in the evening since we were getting closer to the witching hour. She hit her limit and pretty much told me to stop effing around. She went from sub to free use and my brain failed to process it. It was so out of character for her that I got spooked. People who dress professionally for work, but they have a tattoo or several and the tattoos can slightly be seen. Was a flight attendant with tattoos and can confirm that lots of people like this and many are very uncomfortably forward about it. You had me at flight attendant. What's something you don't think you'll ever do again in your life? Coke. Edit. I have not done it for over 30 years. I was hooked for a couple years in Florida when it was everywhere and dirt cheap in the 1980s. The thought of it now nauseates me. Yup. I got asked about this from a friend not too long ago. She knew how far I went down that road. She asked if I ever get the urge. It's been like 15 years. I do. But the difference is now it wouldn't be fun. It would be sad and only in service of an addiction. I lost a good friend a couple of years ago from this heart attack at 40. I don't want to join him. Same. It started out fun. And turned into something else altogether. There's a reason you don't see a lot of 40-50 plus year old cokeheads. Either died or smartened up. Never going back. I remember doing 45 grams of that over a 3-day weekend. This was about a 6-month bender of using every day in varying amounts. A few years ago and afterwards my dealer of all people was the one who told me to take it easy, and I think in that moment it just became clear that I had a problem. Took months of relapsing here and there to get clean. I've never experienced anything else like it, and the hold it has over you. Still get the urge, especially when I'm having a phase of depression, which is a whole other thing. I just keep reminding myself about how effed up I was mentally in the midst of it and how much money I wasted on it to keep myself in check. The worst part is I used to love going to festivals, but am afraid to now because I'm certain I'll relapse in that environment. This is what I came here to write as well. Next month I'll be 2 years clean. Hopefully. Drink alcohol. 6 years sober. Congrats. Keep it up. Congratulations. I am 12 years sober. And it is the best decision I have ever made. Coming up on 5 years and totally agree. Ride a roller coaster. Y'all take care of your back. Because when it goes, your life choices are reduced. Yep, I've gotten muscle spasms just from moving the wrong way. I won't even go to an amusement park anymore. Apparently there is a proper way to do everything. I know all of the improper ways to sneeze, cough, stand, turn, look, laugh, breathe, sit, lay down, get up, and hokey pokey. You're supposed to turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. I always loved roller coasters, but about 15 years ago I took my girls to Orlando and rode every coaster at Universal. I remember thinking to myself, I really don't enjoy this anymore. That was the last time. I just posted this Lamau. That Hulk ride is absolutely abysmal. I might have enjoyed it a few years ago, but I would rather in my hands and clap than ride it again. Skydive. Biggest rush, but once is enough. My wife went tandem skydiving and her main chute didn't open and they had to use the reserve. Then about a year later her friend called her and said one of the instructors they had went with had died in an accident. Holy EISH on a swivel stick. What if the reserve doesn't work either? You see, this is what scares me less about skydiving. Friends have done it and always try to get me to join, but I'm like nope, cause I already know. If someone's chute isn't gonna open or malfunction, it's gonna be mine. Like I already know. That's just how it is, and I don't particularly want to know how it feels to bounce my face off the surface of the earth right now. There's always the chance the second doesn't work too. However, the second chute is required to be packed by an FAA certified member and they have to be re-inspected every 6 months or any time they're used. The initial chute is packed in-house. The 2 places I've been you get set up right where they are packing the chute so you can see the process. This was my first thought as well. I really enjoyed it and might do it again for free, but no way I'm paying $400 a second time. Ha ha. Salvia divinorum. That SH is effing wild. I went places on that D. Then what is like was dwelling in the space I traveled to kick me the F out. Don't have to tell me twice. Here's a review from a website where you can buy salvia. I saved a while ago because the story was so insane. I did not write this. So before I get into this story, I want to explain my general mindset going into this experience. First off, I was nervous, as I had only heard a few stories about salvia before and they all sounded frightening but also ridiculous. Nonetheless, I was very eager to try it. My trip location was my GF's place, a small 2-bedroom apartment. And I was having my brother, he is 15, but trustworthy, trip sit me to make sure I didn't do anything stupid. I believe I tripped at around 10 o'clock p.m. Because after my trip, I would be dropping my brother off at his friend's house to spend the night. And finally, I take Prozac, 10 milligrams, once a day for depression, and I am not sure how, if at all, this affected my experience. I am a noob to psychedelics. The only psychedelic I had done before this was mushrooms, and that experience was amazing. However very weak, as I only took 7 grams. Now this was 40x, which I was told was perfect to start at. Boy, was I horribly mistaken. I remember everything as if it had just happened yesterday. But before I tripped, I felt like getting extremely high on some Mary Jane. So I grabbed my bong out of my GF's laundry room cabinet and lit up some Flame W. After getting baked, I opened the container of purple sticky salvia and grabbed a big chunk between my fingers. I put it in the bowl, hands nervously shaking, all the while spilling the substance all over the countertop. Dry, grayish-green leaves. I got ready to take the hit. I had told my brother to keep me on the couch at all times, as I didn't want to cause any damage to the place while in salvia land. That was a bad idea. I sat down on the couch, hands still trembling, and grabbed the bong. I lit up the salvia, biggest hit I could, sat back and held it for as long as I could. It couldn't have been more than 15 seconds later that I started to feel something. Start of trip. I don't even remember exhaling, but managed to yell the words "oh dude, out" twice, according to my brother. I never said this, before completely blacking out for a few seconds. My vision was instantly brought from first person to third person, as if it were scrolling out in a video game. I saw myself on the couch from behind when all of a sudden my body just completely snapped into this taco-shaped object at the speed of sound while hearing a violent crack. However, at the time, I found this hilarious. After I witnessed this, my vision seems to be scrolling out more. It scrolls out until I can finally see darkness surrounding this square image of what was left of my current reality. I start hearing everything that ever existed all at once, flooding and overloading my brain. I heard every sound frequency imaginable. If I could describe it, it would be like a buzzsaw starting up and reaching its peak, magnified by 1,000,000, multiplied by 1,000,000. The one image of my reality multiplies at indescribable speeds, going and going and going. It finally reached the point where the division of my reality had reached the edge of the universe, and I felt every single thing that ever existed at once. Every time I swallowed, breathed, moved, etc. Every other reality did the same, however lagging behind me. It felt as though when I swallowed, every other reality would swallow, and I was feeling that for what felt like literal forever. Imagine a life where all you could do is swallow, non-stop, every day for the rest of your life. That is how it felt to do anything on that couch at that moment. It seemed, however, that the swallowing and whatnot was starting to get to some ending point, and that my realities had stopped multiplying. I felt so relieved for the slightest moment, when everything disintegrated from top to bottom. That is when I lost everything I knew. As it reached the bottom, I realized there was a picture behind that disintegration. I caught a slight glimpse of what I was about to be in for. Shaped as some kind of rectangle-like object laying completely flat, face up and with my arms at my side. It looked as though my body was stuffed and filled to the brim in a see-through coffin. Not only this, but there were about 1,520 completely blue men holding this coffin, but holding it without using anything at all. It was just hovering above them. Still, these men had very creepy, stern looks on their faces, as if they were intent on doing their job. In the background of this image was unimaginable, indescribable colors flowing and melding together, sort of pixelated in the way it was done. I witnessed all of this for about 3 seconds before I was literally pulled into the hardest, most forceful, turning and winding feeling at an amazing speed. It was these blue men, pulling me along with them wherever they went. They followed some kinds of roads, the best I can describe it, that went on for eternities and eternities. It was pure and utter heck. However, I was being zoomed in and out of third person, all the while being flipped and twisted and turned every which way there ever is and will be. I heard awful sounds and screams. After eternities had passed, it seemed as though I had reached a destination. Everything stopped and I went to third person. My coffin flipped up vertically and slammed extremely forceful and hard into a concrete wall. I knew what this was. I could literally feel it. This was not a wall. This was a sidewalk. A sidewalk in front of my old house I used to live in. Completely out of state, I had become the sidewalk. I could feel every last particle of my being spread across this sidewalk, and it eventually spread onto my old house. Everything that it felt, I felt. During this time, I didn't feel so horrible. It was like I had finally felt a little bit of peace and quiet. But this peace and quiet was ripped away from me when the little blue men came back, somehow grabbed every single particle of me and vacuumed it back into the see-through coffin. I spent more and more time, what dislike for time was, being forcefully dragged and thrown around by these little blue men into various objects. But it was a very familiar place I was headed. I could feel it. They stopped, flipped my coffin up. But wait, what I was being slammed into was not any object at all. It was a very dark shade of green-blue. I was slammed into this color wall and was able to move. It took every ounce of willpower in me to navigate through this heavy, resistant sand. I started to feel closer to the surface. I wiggled my way up as hard as I could back into the couch and my own body. Everything looked as if I was seeing every atom and molecule of everything I saw. It was still extremely refreshing to be back. I had never been more happy in my whole existence as a human being. But these feelings were short-lived. I was greeted by my brother, who pushed me back onto the couch and exclaimed, "Dude, you gotta stay down." I fell back onto the couch, but shortly after was transported back to right before he said this. "Dude, you gotta stay down." I heard him yell, and then I fell back onto the couch again. I was entirely convinced at that moment that I had discovered the truth behind life, which was these blue men forcing me to live meaningless, slow, painful lives as various objects, and that my own brother was in on it. He knew that the blue men would do all of this. He knew they would torture me for eternities on end. Chairs, water, plants, floors, but these lives seemed to be more depressing and meaningless. They seemed so empty, and eventually I felt as though I died. I completely disconnected from anything and everything there was. I just kinda was. Salvia did not keep me grounded in one spot for long. I was hurled into another very familiar scene. It was my old house again. But this time I was inside. In the living room. I saw it vividly. Every detail of it. I stuck my hand out to signal and say, "What the foo?" but I stopped as I looked at my hand and noticed it was the hand of my father. But is troubled deeply and I care for him very much. I started to feel every anxiety he had ever felt. Then next thing I knew, I was in my oldest brother's body. And I felt every single feeling that you could ever experience in your life. It was like getting anxiety times infinity, and it was very unpleasant. While all of this was going on, I was hearing loud high and low pitched yells coming from all directions. It scared me and I felt horrible. But I woke up drenched in sweat, face down on my GF's couch, and immediately started saying no, never again. I am done. Dude, no omg. To my brother, and then told him I needed water. I stood up and ran over to the sink to drink some water. Everything was still extremely distorted and I took a huge gulp of water and leaned down into the sink. The next thing I know, I'm being vacuumed into the garbage disposal and I wake up on the couch with my shirt off. But feeling better. It takes me about 45 minutes to be able to function normally again. I look at the time, and it is around 11:15. The trip lasted a very long time. Longer than I feel it should have. Drove my brother to his friend's house and kept thinking about the trip. It's been about 3 months since the trip. It really scared me at the time. But I feel as though I value my existence on Earth a lot more now. I feel more compassionate towards others and just feel better in general. It was a crazy experience and extremely frightening, but turned out to help me in the long run. If you're gonna try salvia, I suggest going lower on the extract. If you want a mind-blowing and possibly horrifying experience, then do what I did, and start a little higher. Keep tripping, everybody. Thank you for reading. Sounds like the Prozac and W kicked it into overdrive. All the trips I've heard about, including me doing it twice, it only lasted like 5 minutes tops. That's wild. How the F was I able to buy that at the gas station when I was a teenager? Because D laws are inconsistent, illogical and short-sighted enough to not even capture or regulate some DS, and what is regulated may be done so out of fear, superstition, etc., and not reflect the actual danger or lack thereof a substance may impose.